Hello everyone. Today I will analyze how international media and political discourses shape different perceptions about the Syrian conflict and the government of Bashar al-Assad. The Syrian case cannot only be understood as a military or territorial war, it must also be understood as a dispute over narratives, legitimacy, and international representations. Different media and political actors construct different versions of the conflict depending on their geopolitical, ideological, and strategic interests. Since 2011, Syria has experienced a complex civil war involving internal and external actors, such as the United States, Russia, Iran, Turkey, and different Arab groups. This war has produced millions of displaced people, destruction of cities, and a deep humanitarian crisis. However, beyond the military events, it's important to analyze how the conflict is represented and who has the power to construct the dominant narrative. For example, Western media such as BBC and Trans 24 usually describe the government of Bashar al-Assad using terms such as authoritarian, representing or brutal. This narrative emphasizes human rights violations, political transition, and the responsibility of the Syrian government in the much of the violence of the conflict. These representations are important because they influence international perception about the Syrian. Many people around the world build their understanding of the conflict through international media. Here you can connect the ideas of Michel Foucault arguing that power does not operate only through militant economic force, but also through discovering production of truth. Media institutions have the ability to construct political legitimacy and influence how international conflicts are interpreted. On the other hand, media show the hard teeth and the Syrian state using Sana prison and different narratives. This media constantly focus on sovereignty, stability, the fight against terrorism, and foreign intervention. They also criticize Western sanctions and present the Syrian government and actors trying to preserve nationality. Internal and external threat did demonstrate that Syrian conflict is also a discoursive struggle, not only armies and government and in conflict, but also different ways of interpreting reality. Each actor tries to construct narratives that legitimize political and geopolitical intentions. We can also relate the ideas of Antonio Gramsci and Gilles Comte. The hegemonic Gramsci explained that power is not maintained only through coercion, but also through the ability to build consensus and make certain ideas appear natural or legitimate. In the Syrian case, international media participate in the struggle for hegemony because they attempt to influence global public opinion and international legitimacy. Another important person for analyzing this case is Edward Said, and this theory of Oriental insight argued that the West has historically represented the Middle East as irrational, violent, backward, unstable. In some media narratives about Syria, this simplified representation of the Arab and Muslim world still present today. For example, many international discourses reduce Syria only to war, terrorism, or permanent chaos, while historical, social, and geopolitical complexities and influences in North South would argue that these representations are not completely neutral because they yet contract aspects image of these contrasts to their works for the colonial perspective. It can also observe how Syrian views of their subordinate the narrative produced by major power and international media. This reflects historical relation on power and coloniality of knowledge where certain actors have greater capacity to produce knowledge considered legitimate and the global level. It is also interesting to observe that even when different media discuss the same events, they use different language to describe them. Why some media speak about the stereotype and represent opposite forms of sovereignty and stability. This demonstrates that the way that conflict is narrated also influences how people interpret international political reality. For the reason, the Syrian conflict cannot be analyzed only from a military perspective. It must also be understood as a star over narratives, political legitimacies in international representation. In conclusion, the Syrian case show how media, discourse, and power relations deeply influence the way we understand international conflicts. The road also sought as Misei Foucault, Antonio Gramsci, and Edward Said. We can understand that narratives about the Syria are not neutral, but intent reflects geopolitical dispute, cultural hegemonies, and historically constructed form of representation. Thank you very much.